As Kelce was being brought into surgery, Taylor Swift took Travis by the arm and said the most candid thing she had ever said. "You will lose a brother if you don't walk in there now, but you will undoubtedly lose a fiancé." Taylor was tired of seeing the guy she loved prioritize pride over family, and the brothers' drama had reached a breaking point. January 15th, 2025, at 6:47 a.m., Taylor Swift sat clutching her phone in the sterile waiting room of Philadelphia General Hospital, watching Travis Kelce pace like a trapped animal under the harsh fluorescent lights. They had been waiting for updates on Jason's urgent knee surgery for the last 4 hours. However, Travis had made no mention of seeing his brother. The only sounds in the terrible silence between them were Kelce's quiet sobbing as she sat slumped down in the corner chair, surrounded by crumpled tissues and the continuous beep of medical equipment echoing down the corridor. This was not intended to occur, not at all. The Kelce brothers were talking about Jason's retirement exploits and Travis's most recent touchdown celebration while filming their typical New Heights podcast episode a week ago. However, Jason had said something that would alter everything. Jason had stated, "Travis, I need to ask you something, and I need you to really hear me," with a serious tone in his voice that indicated he was no longer making jokes. "Do you feel like you're still yourself in all this?" Travis had questioned, genuinely perplexed. "What do you mean?" It seems like you've replaced Travis Kelce as Taylor Swift's +1 when I watch you now, and see you at events, games, and all these Hollywood parties. It's like you've become so engrossed in her world that you've forgotten who you were prior to this boom of popularity." The studio was completely silent. They were known for their brotherly banter, but this was different. This was Jason's genuine anxiety, the kind that had been growing for months as he saw his younger brother become enmeshed in a celebrity tornado that seemed to be transforming him. Travis had remarked, "That's not fair," sounding defensive. "I'm happier than I've ever been. Just because I'm not the same person I was 2 years ago doesn't mean I've lost myself. But you have changed, Travis. You used to call me before making big decisions. Now I find out about major stuff in your life from TMZ. You used to prioritize family dinners and quiet time. Now every weekend is some red carpet event or celebrity gathering. When's the last time you just came over and hung out without cameras following you?" That's when Travis had exploded. "You know what I think this is really about? I think you're jealous. You're jealous that I'm still playing, still in the spotlight, still relevant, while you're sitting at home trying to figure out what to do with your retirement. Maybe being out of the spotlight isn't as easy as you thought it would be, and instead of dealing with that, you're taking it out on me." Jason had gone completely still, the kind of still that meant Travis had just crossed a line he couldn't take back. "Jealous," Jason had said, his voice ice cold. "You think I'm jealous of watching my little brother turn into someone I don't recognize? You think I'm jealous of seeing you care more about paparazzi photos than family dinners? Travis, I'm not jealous. I'm worried I'm losing my brother to a world that's going to chew you up and spit you out the second the novelty wears off. Maybe you already lost him." Travis had shot back, and the words hung in the air like a physical blow. They hadn't spoken since. Not during the week, not when Travis had practiced, not even when their mom had called both of them separately, begging them to work things out. Jason had been dealing with increasing knee pain from years of football damage. But he'd been putting off surgery partly because he knew it would mean being vulnerable, needing help, and he wasn't sure if Travis would even care enough to show up. Now, here they were in the hospital waiting room, and Travis still couldn't bring himself to walk down the hallway to room 314, where his brother was waiting for surgery. Every time he stood up to go, the weight of their last conversation stopped him cold. How do you apologize to someone when you're not even sure if you meant what you said? How do you face your brother when you might have permanently damaged the most important relationship in your life? But what really shook Taylor was watching this man she'd fallen in love with. This confident, charismatic athlete who commanded stadiums full of people, reduced to someone who was too paralyzed by fear and pride to do the right thing. This wasn't the Travis she knew, the one who'd fearlessly pursued her, even when everyone said it was impossible, the one who'd gotten on stage in front of 90,000 people just to make her smile. This was someone she'd never seen before, and frankly, someone she wasn't sure she could respect. The breaking point came when Dr. Martinez, Jason's orthopedic surgeon, approached them with an update. Jason's surgery had been delayed because his blood pressure was elevated, likely due to stress and anxiety about the procedure. The doctor mentioned almost casually that Jason had been asking for Travis, wondering if his brother was going to come see him before they wheeled him into the operating room. "He's been asking for me," Travis said, his voice barely a whisper. "Several times," Dr. Martinez confirmed. "He seems particularly anxious about the surgery, which isn't helping his vital signs. Family support can make a real difference in these situations." That's when Taylor had enough. She stood up from her chair so abruptly that it startled everyone in the waiting room, including an elderly man reading a newspaper and a young mother trying to keep her toddler entertained with coloring books. "Travis, we need to talk right now," she said, grabbing his arm and pulling him toward the hospital's family consultation room. The moment the door closed behind them, Taylor's composure cracked, but not in the way Travis expected. She didn't yell or cry. Instead, she looked at him with a disappointment so profound it felt like a physical blow. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me," she said, her voice steady but serious. "The man I fell in love with, the one who chased me across the country and got on stage in front of the world to declare his feelings, is he still in there somewhere? Or did Jason's fears about you losing yourself actually come true?" Travis felt like he'd been punched in the gut. "Taylor, that's not fair. No. It is fair because right now you're sitting in a hospital waiting room while your brother is scared and asking for you, and you're too proud to go to him. That's not the Travis Kelce I know. That's not the man who told me that family comes first no matter what. You don't understand how complicated this is." "I understand that you're afraid," Taylor interrupted. "I understand that you said things you can't take back, and you're terrified that Jason won't forgive you. But what I don't understand is how you can sit out here doing nothing when he's literally asking for you." Travis slumped against the wall, the weight of everything finally hitting him. "What if he doesn't want to see me? What if I go in there and he tells me that everything he said was true, that I really have lost myself?" Taylor moved closer to him, her voice becoming gentler but no less serious. "Then at least you'll know you tried. But Travis, I need you to understand something. I'm not going to marry someone who runs away when things get difficult. I'm not going to build a life with someone who chooses fear over love when it matters most. Are you threatening to leave me? I'm not threatening anything. I'm telling you who I am and what I need. I need a partner who fights for his family, who swallows his pride when someone he loves is hurting, who shows up even when it's scary and uncomfortable. If that's not who you are, then we need to figure that out now before we go any further." The weight of her words settled between them like a physical presence. This wasn't an ultimatum or a manipulation. This was Taylor being completely honest about what kind of person she needed in her life. And Travis realized that everything she was saying was true. "Jason was right, wasn't he?" Travis said quietly. "I have changed. I've gotten so caught up in this whole celebrity couple thing that I've forgotten how to just be myself." "Maybe you have changed," Taylor said, "but that doesn't mean you can't change back. That doesn't mean you can't remember who you really are underneath all the noise." Before Travis could respond, there was a soft knock on the consultation room door. Kelce's voice came through thick with tears and barely controlled panic. "They're taking Jason back in 5 minutes. If anyone wants to see him before surgery, this is it." Taylor and Travis looked at each other, the weight of the moment settling between them. This was it. Decision time. No more delays. No more excuses. No more time to figure out the perfect thing to say. So what's it going to be? With her fingers on the door handle, Taylor questioned, "Are you going to choose family or fear?" Travis closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and made a decision that would change everything. When they walked out of the consultation room together, Travis was moving with a purpose Taylor hadn't seen in weeks. They walked down the hospital corridor in silence, past the nurses' station where staff members pretended not to recognize them, past the family waiting area where Donna Kelce sat with Ed, both of them looking older than their years. Room 314 was at the end of the hall, and with every step, Travis's heart pounded harder. When they reached the door, Taylor squeezed his hand one last time and whispered, "I'll be right here when you come out." Travis knocked softly and pushed the door open. Jason was lying in the hospital bed, looking smaller than Travis had ever seen him. The always confident, always larger-than-life Jason Kelce looked pale and worried. hooked up to monitors and IV lines, wearing a hospital gown that made him seem vulnerable in a way that was almost shocking. When Jason saw Travis walk through the door, his face went through a series of emotions. Surprise, relief, and something that might have been gratitude. "Hey," Travis said, his voice barely audible. "Hey yourself," Jason replied, and Travis could hear the emotion he was trying to hide. Neither brother knew what to say for a time. In light of Jason's operation and everything that truly mattered, a week of silence, angry sentiments, and obstinate pride suddenly appeared horribly foolish. Travis finally added, "I came to tell you that you were right," before he could stop himself, "about how I've changed, how I've become engrossed in all the celebrity things, and how I'm no longer the brother you know. You were correct about everything, and I criticized you for caring enough to voice it, rather than paying attention to what you had to say." Tears welled up in Jason's eyes, but he remained silent. "I was so afraid of losing myself that I was unaware that I had already done so. Being Taylor Swift's boyfriend has taken up so much of my time that I have forgotten how to be Jason's younger brother, Travis Kelce. I apologize as well. I sincerely apologize for what I said, how I behaved, and for giving you the impression that I value anything more than you do." Jason said, "Travis," but Travis raised his hand. "Allow me to finish. For my entire life, you have been my hero. You have been my best friend, my greatest ally, and my guardian. You were there for me when I was afraid I wouldn't make it in the NFL. You had faith in me while I doubted myself. You also helped me stay grounded when I needed it. Additionally, I turned against you as if you were my adversary, rather than my brother, the one time you attempted to alert me to the fact that I was getting lost." Jason was no longer trying to hide his tears. "I didn't mean to disparage you or your partnership. I adore Taylor. She is amazing in my opinion. I was afraid that you would become so engrossed in this fairy tale, that you would forget who you were before it all began." Travis said, "I did forget. However, it was Taylor who brought it to my attention. It was she who informed me that I was a coward for being hesitant to visit you. It was she who stated that she couldn't trust me to defend herself if I couldn't defend you." "Did she say that?" With a tiny smile peeking through his tears, Jason asked. "She was correct when she did. How can I expect the individuals who have loved me the most to think that I will be there when it matters most if I am unable to show up for them?" Jason extended his hand and took Travis's, giving it a firm squeeze. "Now you're here. That's what counts. I ought to have been here from the start. The day following our altercation, I ought to have given you a call. I ought to have swallowed my pride and acknowledged that your words were motivated by love rather than jealousy." Jason stated, "We both said things we shouldn't have. But there's something I need you to know, Travis. I was always proud of you, even when I was concerned that you would change. I have always loved you, and I never gave up on the idea that you were still the same kind man you've always been, despite all the chaos." Dr. Martinez and 2 surgical nurses showed up in the doorway before Travis could reply. "I apologize for disturbing you, but we must now return Mr. Kelce to surgery." The next few minutes passed swiftly. Jason was moved to a gurney. Travis followed him as they made their way to the surgery wing. Additionally, they had just enough time for Jason to take his brother's hand and utter the most important words. "Little brother, you have my undying love and admiration. You just shown that you're still the person I've always thought you are. Not because you're well known or dating Taylor Swift." Before the surgical doors closed between them, Travis managed to mumble, "I love you too." As promised, Taylor was waiting in the hallway. She also sensed that everything would be all right when Travis approached her while crying. She put her arms around him and asked, "How do you feel?" "Like I just got my brother back," Travis remarked, embracing her. "And because I was too afraid and too arrogant to own up to my mistakes, I nearly lost all that was important. You didn't lose it, though. When it mattered, you made the proper decision." Travis was reminded of the value of standing up for family during the 3 hours they spent in the waiting area with the rest of the Kelce family. Donna shared embarrassing tales about her boys. To lift everyone's mood, Ed cracked awful dad jokes, and Kylie sent updates from Jason's girls, who were staying with friends and were concerned about their father. Jason's mobility would be maintained. The procedure had been successful, and there were no difficulties when Dr. Martinez eventually came out of the operating room. Relief and joy surged over the waiting area. However, the most significant event occurred 3 days later when Jason was released from the hospital and prepared to return home. Jason drew his brother away for a private discussion, while Travis assisted him in getting into the car. "I owe Taylor more than just an apology." Jason said, "I owe her everything. She could have let you choose pride over family, and then used that as an excuse to walk away. Instead, she fought for us. She saved our relationship when we were too stupid to save it ourselves." Travis nodded, thinking about the woman who was currently helping Kylie load Jason's medications into the car. "She told me she couldn't marry someone who runs away from hard conversations. She made me realize that being brave enough to admit you're wrong is actually braver than pretending you're never wrong." "She's your person," Jason said simply, "and if you're smart, you'll spend the rest of your life making sure she knows how grateful you are that she chose to fight for you instead of giving up on you." That night, as Travis and Taylor drove back to Kansas City, Travis thought about everything that had happened over the past week. The fight that had almost destroyed his relationship with Jason, the fear that had paralyzed him, the surgery that had put everything in perspective, and the woman sitting next to him, who had refused to let him throw away the most important relationship in his life. "Thank you," he said finally, reaching over to take her hand. "For what?" "For preventing me from being a coward. For demonstrating to me that love is more than just pleasant and simple times. For demonstrating that sometimes the individuals who care about us the most are the ones who have the courage to confront us when we're acting inappropriately." Squeezing his hand, Taylor grinned. "Travis, that's what true love looks like. It goes beyond simply encouraging one another's aspirations and acknowledging each other's successes. It involves choosing to grow together rather than grow away, holding each other accountable, and standing up for one another even when it's uncomfortable." Travis came to the realization that this was what true love looked like as they drove home into the Pennsylvania night. The daily decision to choose each other, family, progress over comfort, and love over fear, rather than the fairy tale romance that had initiated their relationship. Jason made an unexpected request a week later, when he was well enough to film a special edition of New Heights. He wanted to discuss the actual events, the true story of how two brothers nearly let pride ruin their relationship, and how sometimes it takes individuals as not simply the sanitized version for public consumption. We enjoy being shown what is truly important. With Travis seated across from him in their typical arrangement, Jason spoke into the microphone. "I want to be honest about something. Last week, my brother and I had the biggest fight we've ever had. Furthermore, it had nothing to do with sports, celebrity, or anything else that might be expected. And I want to be honest too," Travis said. "I almost let pride and fear cost me the most important relationship in my life. It was about family, priorities, and whether success can change who you are at your core. I might have lost my brother forever if Taylor hadn't stopped me from being a coward." After airing 2 weeks later, that episode became the most downloaded episode of New Heights in the podcast's history, not because of surprising revelations or celebrity drama, but rather because of its frank depiction of family dynamics, responsibility, and how love can overcome ego when individuals have the courage to choose it. However, the most significant event did not occur during the episode. Later that evening, when Travis and Taylor were by themselves in their Kansas City house, Travis uttered the words he had been considering all week. He took her hands in his. "I know I haven't always been the man you deserve," he said. "I know I've gotten caught up in the noise and the attention and lost sight of what really matters. But I want you to know that what happened this week changed me. Not back to who I was before, but forward to who I want to be." "And who's that?" Taylor replied softly. Taylor grinned, and Travis realized that this was only the start of the true journey. "Someone who fights for his family. Someone who chooses love over fear even when it's scary. Someone who listens when the people he loves are trying to help him grow. Someone worthy of the incredible woman who was brave enough to refuse to let him settle for being less than his best self. The deeper, more difficult, and more fulfilling kind of love that arises when two people decide to grow together and hold each other accountable for being the best versions of themselves, not the fairy tale kind that makes headlines." What do you think of this tale of personal development, family devotion, and the bravery required to own up to our mistakes. Have you ever known someone who loved you enough to tell you when you were becoming lost, even if it was hard to hear? Tell us about the times when love is more than just unending support. It's about holding each other accountable. Because refusing to accept that we are less than what we are capable of might sometimes be the most effective thing someone can do. If this story served as a reminder that true love entails supporting one another's development and holding one another to higher standards, please hit the like button and subscribe for more candid accounts of relationships that go beyond the news. Because flawless harmony isn't often the focus of the most lovely love stories. Sometimes they are about two individuals who are close enough to each other to have the difficult conversations that make them both